Welcome to Out of My Mouth, the program where raw thoughts meet unfiltered conversations.
Join us as we dive into the depths of human experience, where we share stories, perspectives, and insights that just might challenge the status quo.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and ponder the world around you like never before. This is Out of My Mouth.
Welcome back to Out of My Mouth, where we have conversations with very interesting guests. Our guest today is Patricia, and Cheryl is co-hosting with me today. Barbara will return next week. Deja's in the background producing this amazing show, so stay tuned. But before we start, let me acknowledge the land that we are on. In the spirit of reconciliation and peace, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet on these sacred lands. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We recognize our oneness. We realize our history. We choose to create a new reality. We are one.
Yes, we are. Miigwech. Thank you, Mark. And today it's my honor and privilege to introduce our wonderful guest, Patricia Zogar. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her career, but I can tell you that there is so much more to this amazing woman who I've got to know a little behind the scenes personally, just by serving on the Unity Canada board and being at the Unity Canada conference a couple of years ago on Vancouver Island, which was wonderful. And Patricia was the lead minister at the time. She has served at the Positive Living Centre of Victoria, Centre for Conscious Living in Winnipeg, Centre for Spiritual Living in Kamloops, since 1999, retiring in 2013. Shortly after retirement, though, she was invited to Unity of Nanaimo to speak, and it became clear that she was not yet done. So in April 2016, she became their minister, and she ushered in many changes. She played a big role in bringing Unity communities of Victoria, Comox Valley, and Nanaimo together, and it unified into Unity Vancouver Island. And this has been a joy, as was serving as president of the Unity Canada board. So welcome, Patricia.
Thank you. Haichka.
Haichka. Do you want to explain Haichka for our viewers?
Is in the Hokominam language that's spoken by the Nanaimo people here on Vancouver Island. Haichka is thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So today we had spoken about looking at divinity as a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're going to be speaking on that on Sunday, but I'm intrigued to know what divinity as a diagnosis means.
Well, it actually just means this kind of a catchy title, I guess. I've found over the years that there's 4 areas of life that people have concerns and challenges with. There's health, finances, relationships, and self-expression of purpose. And by far, I think the biggest one I hear from people about is health. And so that's kind of a catchy, sneaky in how to talk about health. I think back to when, of course, Unity, as most people know, was actually founded as a healing discipline Myrtle Fillmore and Charles Fillmore had both been healed. And so I always hark back to Myrtle and how she taught that about the body's natural ability to heal itself and to talk to our bodies and to love our bodies and bless our bodies rather than to argue with the disease. So that's kind of going with that this week. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. She really embraced the feeling that she was a child of God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and therefore should not inherit sickness. And what was beautiful about it was that she started to really talk to her body and her cells individually with so much love and compassion and kindness. And so it's the energy, I think, that came from that place that was so healing. And I wonder, so I'm going to just go into that a little bit more, if I could go with you, talking about that, because I always think to myself, for example, thousands of years ago, when there was thunder and lightning and it wasn't understood, people said the gods were angry, right? Because they didn't understand what thunder and lightning is. And now we've learned that it's really, it's scientific. It's from water evaporating and the heat and the cooling and all the rest of it. So I often think about even in the days of the late 1800s, early 1900s, we understood things a certain way. We were healed for whatever reason, let's say for affirming and loving and healing. And today, what I think where I'm going is today we're finding out that it's the energy, it's the actual energy behind that that is healing. And that, so we've advanced a little bit in the understanding of how we can heal ourselves.
Right. And the interesting thing is that this is different from, the miracle faith healing where you get smacked on the head and you drop the crutches and dance down the aisle. It's not a sudden thing. Both Charles and Myrtle were healed, but it was 2 or 3 years of a different way of thinking and feeling and holding the circumstances of life that gradually healed the body. And then it becomes permanent because by then the new way of thinking is instilled and taken root in our whole lives. So it's more about maintaining our health than fixing us up.
Right.
Or fixing what happens sometimes too.
Yeah. Right thinking and embodying it, right? When she did it over a long time, she embodied it. So it just became part of who she was and how she was in her life. Yeah, so definitely. I just think about, people like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza and all those people and how they would explain it now. And so this is where I go. It's like there's a gap between the two. And so how do we explain it in a way that it's really understandable to many of us than just to a few who can understand quantum physics and science?
Bruce Lipton puts it, very clearly. To me, it's very simple. We all understand genetics, and we tend to think that we're beholden to genetics and we're controlled by our genetics. But epi, meaning on top of genetics, he teaches that we can actually turn the genes on and off by changing our environment chemically and emotionally and spiritually. So, yeah.
I know. It's amazing.
You don't have to understand quantum physics in order to take advantage of what it offers us.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah, and somehow I remember in his book he basically came to the to a place where he said he could prove that consciousness was outside of the body, not inside the body, which is so fascinating. So you're right. I think it's a matter of reading and educating ourselves.
All that and mind, we always think of the mind as being in our brain. It's throughout every cell of our body is mind, you know.
Yeah.
And consciousness is sort of what we're swimming in, and what's consciousness and what's mind, and where do they interface? It's fascinating and fun to think about, as well as liberating.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I think it is fascinating, and my hackles go up a little bit because it sounds like it is, or I can sort of filter it in as it's sort of easy. You just think it and you're poof, you're better. And I know of other people who talk about healing themselves, but yet I see evidence that they aren't healed. And so it's not as black and white as it may seem as it's expressed right now. And the other thing I wanted to say that I was really intrigued about, Patricia, when you said arguing with the disease. Now, I can get my head wrapped around that, because personally, if I have an ache or a pain or something, the more I think about it and argue with it and say, you know, damn it, and you're here again, and blah, 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 the worse I will feel. I'm not going to make it go away, perhaps, but I can certainly make myself feel worse by staying in the argument of it. Can you talk a bit more about what you meant when you said arguing with the disease?
Right. Well, you've heard the phrase resistance causes persistence.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, if your body is ill, it's trying to tell you something. So you need to listen to what's really going on. And surrender is a word that drives people crazy, but it's such an empowering thing to do, is to surrender. You know, you can't change this. So, okay, how do I make it okay so that I can approach it from a positive position rather than resisting and stress? Because the first thing, if you get a pain, what do? You tighten up, right? And that's just makes it worse. So when you've got pain, try meditation, which is the opposite, just allowing it to flow. Allow.
Relax into it rather than fight it.
So much of what we do in life is resisting something that we can't change. You know?
Yeah, and what I hear, Mark, when you say that, you know, like we tense up, or you like, oh no, like, and you start thinking negative thoughts about having this pain, we're focusing more on it.
Yeah.
Right, with negative energy.
Exactly.
And I hear you, Patricia, by letting go and doing something else, and basically replacing that negative energy with some positive energy by meditating or whatever it is.
Or being on this show.
Yeah.
Being on the show, doing a puzzle. Like, I love puzzles. And I did one the other day with my grandson, a 200 piece. He is 5, but he is amazing at puzzles. But the point is, I love how it really takes me in, and I don't think about anything else except for finding peace, which I think is a form of meditation, right? Yeah.
And that's really, isn't it, the primary teaching of unity, is what we focus our attention upon, we attract into our experience. So I focus on the pain or focus on peace.
Exactly. Yeah. And before the show, we were talking about your first ordination was the Church of Alliance, Church of Truth.
International Alliance of Churches of Truth, Canada.
Okay, which is now the Church of Truth Alliance.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, because I went and I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, there's another New Thought organization. And we all are talking about the same thing. You're ordained in Science of Mind, Center for Spiritual Living, which was called Religious Science then. You've served at Unity for years and done so much there. And we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So there must be
And so...
Sorry.
Sorry, Patricia, go
I was just
ahead.
going to say Reverend.
What's that?
Is it Reverend?
No,
No?
it's irreverent. But I was just going back to what you talked earlier about. Oh dear.
That's okay.
I thought I turned my phone off.
There's some music for us.
There you go.
I wanted to talk. Oh, sorry.
That's no
I
problem.
watched something on YouTube the other day. There were these two boys dancing to the alarm of a car going off. Now, do you know how irritating that can be? And here they were, and they were truly like making moves to the alarm that was going off. I thought that was so wonderful.
Resist it or use it. There's a demonstration.
Exactly.
There you go.
But going back to you were talking about how science, scientific knowledge changes everything. And that's really what I love about the New Thought teaching, is because it does, well, the very first paragraph of the Science of Mind text, which is the Centers for Spiritual Living text, says, we all look forward to the day when science and religion can join hands and walk together through the invisible to the visible. And, New Thought, Unity, and Centers for Spiritual Living, we're willing to adapt and change as we learn more. And so we can amalgamate spirituality. I'm so sorry. That's a new phone. I don't know what to do with it. So science and spirituality are not fighting in our teaching at all.
Yes. Yes, I love that. When I first got involved in this journey, I was a teenager, like at arm's length, really. And today it really has become side by side, if not one, because I think they're proving so much of what was always known before, but was thought of as hoo-ha or, funny business, is now becoming an understanding of what it is.
Because quantum physics has shown that nothing is independent of the observer.
Yeah.
Sort of ratifies what we've been teaching, that what we look at, we change by how we look at it.
Exactly. It's our perception, it's our energy, it's a whole lot of things. I mean, there's things that I've been reading and hearing about how, nothing is real. Like it's all our projection of things. And, so there's just so much, right? As we come to this understanding, I think we start even thinking further out the box. Like the Matrix, people saying, oh, like we could be in the Matrix.
Huge implications, yeah. A lot of what was once science fiction, from Dick Tracy's two-way wristwatch, all the way up to what we do today. It's
exactly.
Apple.
Yeah. I know. I wonder if that's because they started thinking about it and putting it out there, and people started watching it. Like, did we create it? Right.
Which is cause and which is effect. One leads to the next.
Yeah, exactly. Or did they tap into something
making a difference? Yeah.
Did they tap into something that was already there? Right. And
or
then
we put it there for everybody else to tap into.
Exactly. And bring it into manifestation.
Yeah,
I love this stuff. It's so exciting.
Patricia, you've had quite the journey. 3 ordinations, as I think I heard. And is there something from the beginning to now that has really shifted for you, or is there a growth that you've seen? Have you gone back to where you were at the beginning? Like, tell us a little bit more about your
it started with
experience.
started with a slap upside the head for sure. Back in 1979, it was in the days of the S training. I don't know if you remember that, but
no.
It was one of those 2 weekends of sort of pop psychology, but it was a real wake-up call for me. I was not healthy. I was drinking too much. I had abandoned my husband and children, and I was just in a bad state. And bless him, my ex-husband taught me into taking the S training. And it was our teaching without this, from a lay person's point of view, that, you create your own reality and take responsibility for your own life. And that was such a slap upside the head, because I was blaming the men in my life for all my troubles, of course. And I realized there that the only thing that was consistent in all my relationships was that I was there. So, I'm not happy with that for a while, but it absolutely freed me to start to grow. And the same weekend that I was in Los Angeles, actually, to take this training, my aunt had gotten married in a religious science church, which is the precursor to Science of Mind. And I was really amazed by what the minister said, because I was not brought up churchy. And the minister did not mention Jesus, and he didn't mention God. He talked about the infinite. And I was really impressed with that. And 2 years later, I was visiting in California. My grandfather had died, and there was a memorial service that again left me quite astounded. So I said, okay, give me something to read here. And then I was hooked. Yeah, so that's how it's all started. But then it's been a long journey of growth for 30 years. I just want to make a correction, Mark. I've not been ordained 3 times. I've been licensed or special dispensation to serve.
Okay.
Just to, not that anybody really cares, but I just.
Thank you. No, that's good to know. Thank you.
And so when I was living in Victoria at that time, and there was the Victoria Truth Center there, but we didn't know about it. And we did get involved there when we found out, but there was no place I could get training. So I just volunteered everything I could, read everything I could, took online courses from the Science of Mind. And then there was a Church of Religious Science in Victoria that had to disband because we couldn't afford to pay a minister. So they went independent and asked me to be their permanent guest speaker. And then they appointed me spiritual leader, and then that, one thing just sort of built on another. And I've been very fortunate, actually, that a lot of my life experiences have been accepted as part of my qualifications to get me certified. So, yeah, it's a long story.
I love what you've shared.
I went to Winnipeg, and that was, I'm not sure why I went to Winnipeg. Well, I am, because the reason I went to Winnipeg is because they had they'd been founded by 2 Science of Mind ministers. And one of them, because of some personal problems, although he'd taken the training, was not ordained. They did not ordain him. And so he couldn't be the minister, so they went independent. And then when I came, they knew I had Science of Mind. That was my teaching, my calling. They said, we want to go back into Science of Mind. So that's when I got approved as a Science of Mind practitioner and minister. And without that, I guess I wouldn't have been licensed through Science of Mind. So that's, spirit leads. And if you follow, eventually you find out why.
Yeah, wow. That's thank you.
Yeah. It's the same teaching.
It really is. Just using different words and from different people, but who basically started off learning from the same teachers. Right?
And
so they had the same foundation.
Yeah. And all being people who are open and being influenced by the Emerson and the Boston metaphysicians, and there was a lot of that stuff going around at the turn of that century. And, the Rosicrucians and all these various groups that were looking at things in a new way. And there's still factions and variations, but it's all about basically opening to a new understanding of what the divine is. Because to most people then it was still 3 tiers, the flat earth with the dome over top and heaven above, and this is standing on a pillar in space and hell below. It's like,
Yeah.
Again, science changes things for most of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the evolution that seems to be going on now with, even Marg, you lent me a book, I think you and Wendy read, and I'm reading it now, something about God or no God, something like that. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Is it Patrick?
I can't
Is it by
remember.
Patrick O'Donnell?
I don't,
O'Donoghue?
but it's really looking at I think it's a Christian minister or somebody who serves in a Christian church, but who's looking at things differently now, and who's also analyzing what we were taught about the Bible and where things came from, and realizing that the Bible was put together by man, and how things how things were then and where we are now. So even in that Christian setting, that questioning that's going on, and that recognition of the fact that Jesus was a man who came here to teach us, to show us who we are. And I don't even know if he came here to teach us, but he was a great teacher by who he was. Whether he came here for that or not, right? The way he lived and the things he said, if we all lived and understood what he was saying, what a wonderful world this would be. But then we took it down a different road. But seems to be that realization now in so many different places, not just New Thought, and that questioning, and that looking at what was then and why, and being able to really discern as to what was real and what is real for me today. So
And throughout
yeah.
Christian churches, John Shelby Spong is another great person to read. He was an Anglican a real renegade, and made huge advances as far as women being ordained and gays being married, and they're throughout Christianity. I've watched several YouTubes lately of Christian preachers who are essentially teaching exactly what we're teaching.
I know.
God is a presence and a power, not a man.
Yes.
And that presence and power is available everywhere. And
yes.
And
so there's that evolution.
In the States, if you're noticing what's going on there with the evangelicals, and the Christian nationalism, which says everybody has to be Christian, it's really fractured that evangelical movement. So now a lot of evangelicals are speaking out and counteracting that with very much what we're teaching. So everything's on the move.
I know. That's what's so exciting. That's why it's really exciting to live in these times, right?
Yes.
And I think that's the benefit, the education in having these conversations. Because Patricia, using you as an example, you have how many years of living what you have learned and now speaking about it in everyday dialogue. And I think that is really important. For someone like me, I can learn from someone like you more than somebody standing up there, on a pulpit and preaching. I can hear wisdom in conversation.
Because we have so much in common. We all have a story, and we can all teach each other something if we listen to each other.
Yeah. Absolutely. The key is being able to listen and to hear.
To hear,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I just had a flashback to the very first time I spoke at Unity in Nanaimo, or maybe my first talk after I was hired, and talking about what I wanted to do. And it was important for me to teach relevant teaching to today. And I remember pointing out that the Fillmores, when they first started, they called themselves Christian, but they called it practical Christianity. something that was useful and applicable to your life experience. And that's
Yeah.
why so many church teachings are no longer relevant to today. I mean, you look at, bless them, that the Jewish Bible has, the Jewish tradition has like 600 laws that people have to follow. But
Every day.
500 of them are based on what was necessary 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's time for us to take a quick break. So it's a good place to stop and come back, and we will have more wonderful discussion and see where it takes us. So please join us, take a quick break, do what you need to do, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
Welcome back. So during the break, I had to run and get the book because I thought, no, I don't remember the name, but I don't want to do it injustice. So it wasn't God or No God. It was With or Without God by Greta Fosper. And, oh, you can't see because I'm blurred. But she is the pastor of United Church in Toronto. And the foreword was by John Shelby Spong, who you mentioned, Patricia, right? So I love being able to read from, people who have different backgrounds who are having the same kinds of questions and coming to the same kinds of places that we are.
And being willing to actually come to slightly different places, but embrace those differences and allow them to be.
100%. Absolutely.
I love that.
We're not, I mean, we do have the truth, and so does everybody else, right?
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. The truth is the truth that we make it to be. And then at the end of the day, I was, I was speaking to a friend of mine one day, sorry to interrupt you, and we had this whole long conversation about, all this spiritual and belief systems and all the rest. And then, and she was really quite inspired. And then at the end, I said to her, and I may be wrong. And she was like, oh, thanks for that.
And why are we so afraid of being wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the place where we can learn something,
Mm-hmm.
Well, just before we go on, it reminds me of what I just read here as well. It's why the way we live is more important than what we believe. And so that's, I think, that, where, what is being wrong, what is wrong with being wrong. I think it's more about the way we live than what we believe being right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Patricia, I love watching your face as you engage, and I can see the passion just coming through your eyes, and
Thank you.
You're living you're living a dream, I think. I
think we all light up when we talk about this stuff. I mean, what on earth is more important?
So I'm wondering, what is your favorite book, your favorite teacher, and maybe your favorite lesson in life?
Well, my favorite book, without question, is Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. That would be my desert island book. And what else?
Just random. Your favorite teacher, spiritual, school, your neighbor.
This is a question that I have to answer to get into the bank. Who was your favorite teacher? Miss Goldsworthy. Miss Goldsworthy was my grade 3 teacher. As I said, I had never been exposed to religion. My mother's family had been Anglicans, and then when she was, I think, already married, the rest of the family became Jehovah's Witnesses, and my mother was the only one who didn't. And so just to keep peace in the family, I think she just kept us away from everything. But grade 3, Miss Goldsworthy, it was at the time of the McCarthy hearings when the Americans were, hunting down communists. And she said, communists are good people too. Jesus was a communist. And I think
wow,
she got fired after that. But she also taught us the golden rule. And I was 8 years old, and it was the golden rule was in shiny golden letters up in the sky. And I just knew that was the way the world would work, and that was my God, So yeah, Miss Goldsworthy was my favorite teacher.
That is so cool.
That is beautiful. If you had to say something to your younger self today, what would you say?
Smarten up. Get over yourself. I think it's fairly normal human behavior to go through those stages where we think our life is all about having things and instant gratification and wild and crazy sex and stuff. And as you get older, those things tend to be sorted into their appropriate level, So yeah, when I was, as I say, when I turned 30, and that was kind of the beginning of women's lib movements. And my generation all assumed we were going to finish high school, and shortly thereafter we were going to get married and have babies. And I was seeing a generation where girls were finishing school, they were taking a year off and traveling. They were saying they didn't want to have children. So I kind of went through dark night of the soul. And then I turned 30, and I thought, well, my life's half over and I haven't done anything. So that's kind of a mental health breakdown, I think. And I say I ran off with the next door neighbor one night. So it took me about 7 years to realize the folly of that and how much time I had wasted. So I don't know what I would tell myself, but that's what I wouldn't do again.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. when we think about, I think about my life as having so many different chapters that they seem to be different lifetimes.
Mhm.
They're so different, right?
Yeah.
Which is quite amazing. And
Yeah,
I don't know if I would want to go through any of them again.
I wouldn't want to be the person I was then either. You know, I know this is a wasteful emotion, but I'm very ashamed of that. You know,
Mm.
but here's another life lesson I learned was actually during the S training that I referred to. There was an exercise, and for somehow I came up that I felt guilty. And the facilitator looked at me and he said, "Do you know what guilt is really?" And I said, "No." And he said, "It's just an excuse to keep on doing it."
Wow.
I'm a bad person, but look how bad I feel about it. So I must really be a good person. So it's like, just get off it, leave it behind. Guilt is wasted energy. And what are you now? So that comes up to me once in a while.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm going to have to think about that.
And this humility thing too, this self-effacing thing. My mother was like that. Everybody loved my mother, but she was so, oh shucks, And no. But it's almost as though she wore her humility as a badge of honor, which in a way is kind of bragging. So it's really quite ironic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's the things that we've learned, right? That we conditioned to believe is the right way to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in
Of
that
course,
time, it was humility and, just being a good wife and a good mother and those things. Yeah.
I can remember being in nurses training and talking to my roommate about what we were going to do. And my big goal in life was always to have homemade chocolate chip cookies in the cookie jar. That was my purpose. When I had 3 kids and I didn't have time to bake cookies, and we'd have store-bought cookies, they get all excited. Oh, store-bought cookies. You come to realize what are the really important things in life eventually. Unfortunately, it takes our whole lifetime to do that.
But if you only gave them store-bought cookies and you baked, they would have been excited about your cookies.
When you were talking about humility, I remember years ago, I would always hide from a camera. And it was this big deal. I would go, no, I don't want my picture taken and whatever. And I think of it now, and it was what a showman that was, just to make such a big deal about getting my picture taken. And someone said to me one time, "Mark, but you're taking someone else's opportunity away. Maybe they want to remember this moment, and you're taking that away by saying no. You don't want your picture taken." And it brought the humility part. Yeah, right. That wasn't being I wasn't being something. I was being something else. Anyway, you said something there when you were training to be a nurse. So you were a nurse as well?
I did not finish nurses training.
Okay.
I went about halfway through, and after that, I had medical terminology, so I was a medical records transcriptionist.
Okay.
And I worked in doctors' offices for many years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
nothing
you
goes
received.
past Mark. If you say
Pardon me?
something, I say nothing goes past Mark. If you say something, she's going to pick it up and she's going to come back and revisit it, which is what makes her a wonderful co-host, right?
Cool.
Oh, thank
And that's
you.
interesting. You're talking about many lifetimes, just looking at career-wise too. If you live to be 80 or 90 years old, how many, because I've been, teaching, I taught property management. I was a realtor, and nowadays people don't just do one career. Most ministers in the New Thought organization probably don't get fully active until they're at least 50.
Mm-hmm.
You need a certain life experience to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
That way you can speak of life because
Mm.
you've experienced it. You may not have experienced everything that I've experienced, and vice versa, but your experience comes through as a teaching.
I think it's also our value system. I'll speak for myself. Like our values shift. My values shifted as I got older. You know, like Patricia, you were saying, you know, when you're younger, you think about having things and you know, wanting your home to look so, you know, this way, and this thing will look nice in that corner, and this. And now I'm like, if anybody comes over, I'm like, is there anything here you want? Just take it.
Yeah, then you don't have to worry about breaking it or having it stolen, right?
Except for books, Cheryl. We can't take your books.
Oh yeah, no books. I'm gonna die with. That's just the way it is. We'll have to, I don't know, bury me with some.
Getting back to this idea of, you know, learning as we get older, one of the things that's always been on my mind as a minister, and I think is true for most New Thoughts, is how do we attract younger people? I think it's probably true in mainstream churches too. But, and of course I live on Vancouver Island, which is retirement city anyway. But, you know, getting someone less than 50 into the doors is a big achievement. And I think in a way it's a waste of time to try and do that. We should just be who we are, and those who are ready will find us. The thing is, most people, I think, don't have the life experience and are not ready for what we teach until mature age. So
I agree.
I often think, boy, if I'd known this when I was 20, my life would have been different. But again, I wasn't ready to learn it yet.
Yeah. And I think, you know, also when I think about myself, you know, having 2 kids, and really life becomes, it's really around those kids, what sports they're doing, schools, their social lives, you know, all the whatever's going on. And then when they left home and they were older now, it's almost like, okay, so now this is my time. I can go to Unity every Sunday. I can do these things that maybe just wasn't as easy to do when you're doing things as a family.
Right.
Because my family thinks I'm crazy. They think I have a broom in the closet or a magic carpet.
I've seen it. I really have.
And so, yeah, I think that, you know, perhaps that's also why we do come to it when we're older, is because we've got the time and you know, to put into it and to read more and explore more and have these conversations and get engaged in some of the book studies and whatever is offered. So I agree with you. I think, you know, let people come from where they're at. And if a few young people come, great. I think often what happens, and I'm going to speak from what I've seen, is young people come in, and some of the congregation gets so excited, they jump on them and just want to, like, you know, get in, you know, why, you know, just want to get to know them and involve them. And so it sometimes chases them away.
Well, I have to say, people, that's not. Someone, I think there was a message there saying, "I need help learning God." That is so important, because those childhood ideas of God, the punisher, the judger, is so destructive. And you know, the first step, I think, was when we started to talk about the feminine, that God was, you know, he, she. But my personal effort and preference is I try to eliminate all pronouns when talking about God, because so God is not a man, but God isn't a woman either, and God isn't. I even try to avoid saying thank you, because you is a other person word, you know. So I just say I'm grateful to Spirit, or rather than personifying it, because I think that's the key to a deeper understanding of what God is that it's energy, it's process, it's life unfolding. That's what allows us to contribute to where it goes.
Right.
It has no set plan for us. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope that person finds their way to a New Thought Center pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, perhaps Deja, you can put some contact information in, to the websites, CSL on the Lake, Unity Kitchener. I don't know what Teresa, where you're coming from, but if you let us know the area, we could perhaps also
provide some direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Timmy Thornton is here, and she says, thank you for this fabulous program with such a special guest
Hi,
as
Timmy.
Patricia. So glad I could catch this live today. Hi
Timmy
from
was with us in
Timmy.
Nanaimo for about a year.
Oh, and now she's in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Timmy. Long time no see.
Yeah. And just to add to what you were saying, Patricia, I've always, when I think about God, for me, it's infinite source. It's substance, mind substance, because that's how we manifest. And for the longest time, I thought about, why do we think of God in the sky? And I realized that what we did was religion, the way we talk about it, we made God in our image, not the other way around, right? Where we know that in the Bible it says that we are made in the image and likeness of God. And I think that how we are made in the image and likeness is that we also are creators. We create reality, and we are this energy experiencing itself.
Yeah.
So that's how we are made in the image and likeness, for me. So I don't know if that helps, but Teresa, please feel free to reach out and join us, and just, join the conversation anytime, any place, anywhere that you can find on our website or in our newsletters.
During the commercial, one of the things that captured my eye was, probably Robert put it in the commercial, universe, and it's YOU, universe. And I thought, isn't that so true? Because we are the universe, right? We all the collective. And when we were talking about children, the youth coming into the spiritual centers, I like to think that when we interact with our children, our grandchildren, we can lead by example. So they don't have to come into a building. They don't have to come into a Zoom meeting. But if we're good examples, if we walk our talk, that's all we can do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as they get older, they get curious, right? And they want to have conversations as well, which is just so lovely.
Or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
okay.
That's when being the grandma, not the mom, makes you more, I don't know, authoritative somehow.
Wiser. Maybe wiser. Even though the parents don't think so. Maybe the grandparents do. I mean, the grandchildren.
Do you have grandchildren, Patricia?
Oh, I have great-grandchildren.
Wow. Amazing. Are any of them on the island?
One of my grandsons is, yes.
Okay.
And I'm thankful for him because he fixed my car.
Nice.
Very nice. The dealership told me it was going to cost me $7,000 to fix my car, and my grandson did it for $2,000. So there you go.
Wow.
It comes back to you.
Very good. Lovely.
That's awesome.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of our time together. So what is the one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with today?
I think it's just that basic teaching, remember, is that the more you can take responsibility for how your life is, the more your life becomes how you'd like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. I love that. What about you, Mark? Is there something that you think would be a good thing to leave our listeners with?
I want to echo those words, taking responsibility for one's life. I thank you, Patricia. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I've enjoyed getting to know you better outside of the other Zoom meetings that we've had.
Right.
So thank you so much for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I love that you said take responsibility, because we all, we talk about metaphysics and, how our thoughts create and where we put our focus. But we don't really talk about that responsibility and accountability part. And that's really what it's about, right? Is being responsible and being accountable to ourselves. And so really looking at where our truth is within ourselves so that we can take that responsibility. So I'm so grateful, Patricia. I always enjoy time with you. I hope we will have more times together. And thank you so much for being our special guest today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And I hope you have some lovely weather on the island still. And I invite everybody here, or everybody who may watch this after the fact, please like, share, and follow us, and come back next week at 4.
And join us on Sunday.
I'll see you Sunday, yes.
Oh, yes. Patricia's going to
Yes.
be our guest speaker at Unity Kitchener on Sunday. So go to our website, have a look at our newsletter, and sign up for the newsletter, and you will get the link. So we look forward to that, Patricia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.